Welcome to an evening with John Kneeshaw. If anyone has any specific requests, please let us know via the chat so John can cover those too. Welcome, John. Thank you for joining us, and over to you.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everybody. I'm getting feedback from somebody's system. Is everybody muted? Thank you. Yep, it's gone now. My name's John Kneeshaw. Tonight's session, I don't think will be terribly long because we're trying to do something quite specific. And it is a bank holiday, and I'm not sure how I came to be doing this on a bank holiday, but there we are. Ian asked and I said yes. In November last year, I shared one of these evening with Julian Best, who I notice is here this evening. And that was about computer connections and computer controlling bits of DCC systems. Julian talked about train control systems. I talked about the basics of layout editor and the layout panels of Panel Pro, which is part of the JMRI suite. I expect most of you are aware of JMRI, the Java-based model railway interface. It is a system which allows one to connect a computer to a DCC system and do all sorts of functions. And in November, I went through how to find JMRI, how to download JMRI, how to set it up on your computer, and how to work with Panel Pro a bit. You may remember we created a mini panel and we learned how to operate the points from our computer. And then we sort of, having produced that mimic panel, we did some simple route setting. Since then, James Aitken did an evening in which he talked about JMRI's Decoder Pro. And Decoder Pro is the bit of the JMRI suite which allows you to manipulate DCC locomotive decoders or any DCC decoder and do stuff with decoders. And what I want to do tonight is very simply to start to operate the mini layout from last time using wireless mobile devices. And these are just going to be ordinary telephones or tablets. As I did last time, I'll try and do it all as much as possible live, so that if you're trying to follow it so you can do it for yourself, you can watch the video back and should be able to do all of it. I'll try not to do the Blue Peter thing of having large chunks of it suddenly appear ready done. I think it always helps if I can show you step by step. The kit I'm using is the kit I have, and that's a Lens DCC system, but any DCC system will do. I'm using a Mac laptop and Apple portable devices because this happens to be a Mac household, although there is a Windows computer which used for Templot. Ian, can we move to screen sharing? Can you enable screen sharing for me? Thank you very much, Ian. I've just got to learn how to get rid of a whole lot of stuff, which is right. I've got rid of that. So I can't see much of you, and I can't make that go away. That's better. It kept landing in the middle of my screen where I didn't want it. What you can see at the moment, I hope, is a little live video feed of the setup we've got for tonight. You can see on the right is the screen of my telephone, which I can sweep. If I stick the phone there, you can see what you're seeing is exactly what I'm getting on that screen. It's impossible to put a telephone screen in front of a camera and have it make any sense to anybody. So let's just look at the photo slide so I can just show you the kit, show you the setup so you can repeat it if you need to, if you want to. There is a power supply, any power supply suitable for a DC system. This is the back end of a Lens control system. It has power in on the two purple wires, and it has track DCC signal coming out on a black one and a red one. This one's connected to a hand controller, and that one is going to be the output to the computer. Those of you who watched the one I did last year will remember, or may not remember, that I had an older lens system, and there was a lens control system and a separate a separate computer interface. Since then, I got lucky on eBay and got a newer lens system. This is the LZV200, which has the computer interface built into it, and that's what we're using tonight. The red and the black ones go to a very subtle pair of crocodile clips attached to some wire, where two more purpley wires come off. The two purpley wires go into a Cobalt IP point motor. That IP point motor is representing all the points on a layout, and there it is. I've got a bit of paper tied to the end of it so you can see when it moves. You can see our two clips attached to a piece of rail, and there is a locomotive sitting on the track. The locomotive is a very old Ginty that I built from a Firmco kit probably 40 years ago. Go back to the DCC system. The USB connection for the signal out to the computer is there. It's going into my MacBook here. And to make it all work, that's the camera that's looking at the mini layout on the desk. And there's a rather sad little hub there because I've got to get the signal in from the USB camera and the signal in, which allows me to treat my mobile phone as a video source. And I think that's all of those. So I can just drop those down a bit, and I'll just put the video back on the screen so you know what kit we've got running. That video there, plus the video effectively running on the phone screen and running the Zoom, is quite a bit of stress for my little laptop. On the occasions I've sort of practiced setting it all up and on a running Zoom, it has occasionally fallen over. So if it does, it reboots fairly easily, and we should be able to get it going. And also to test the bandwidth, we've got Jackie on the same Zoom in another room in the house. But fortunately, we have a fairly robust internet system around here. So let's go back to where we were in November. I'm going to go down here and I'm going to open Panel Pro. That's the Panel Pro icon. We're going to click on that. And if you don't use JMRI a lot, you may not see this screen. I've got multiple profiles set up in my JMRI, so I can be different people doing different things. So I'm going to use the one called GOG Demo. Not very adventurous in my naming systems. And that's the main Panel Pro window. And we're going to use that to open the layout that we need. Now, I'm aware that I'm using a Mac and it looks different to Windows. On a Mac system, this is the active window, and therefore the menu which appears up here is the menu for that window. If you were running a Windows system and you had this window, it would have its menu bar along here as you're used to. And if I go on that one, you can see that the top menus have changed. Just to be aware of, if you're not used to looking at Macs, is you have to make sure that you've got the live window to give you the menus that you want. So we're going to go File, and we're going to load a table of contents and panels. And the one I'm going to pick is a demo, which is what we did last time. And here it appears. It may be familiar to some of you. It's a system of 3 lines with 4 points, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And if I just make it all go live by clicking on that, you notice those views good peripheral vision, that point changed there. So what we did last time, and we're using it again, is a very simple system, a little ladder of sidings, if you like, and each of these points we can control by clicking on them. Whenever we click on the number 3 one, you'll see that move because that's representing them all. And you may remember also we set routes up so that if I want to go through here, I click simply on that signal, and that will change all the points to give me that route. I click on the top one, it gives me that route. I won't, unless anybody needs to later on, go back through how we set those up. They're set up in tables in JMRI. You have tables of sensors to do this, tables of points, and tables of routes. But that was from the last talk rather than from this talk. So that's just a reminder of where we were, and we've just showed the point motor move, and I ought to check that it's working by grabbing hold of my Lens hand controller, which is also over here, and yep, we have control of the engine on the Lens system if we need to, and always good if we turn it right off as well. Okay, so we've got control of that. So yes, if you look what I was saying about windows, if the live window at the moment is this one, and the menu is the menu for that window. So if I go tools on there, I get that menu, whereas if I click on my main Panel Pro window and go tools, it's a different menu. But if you're using Windows, the menus will be along the top of the windows, as you are used to. Pardon me flicking bits of paper, I just don't want to lose stuff. So let us see if we can go wireless. And what we're looking for is producing a wireless throttle. So the first thing we need to do is to, we're going to be using an app called WiThrottle, WiThrottle, or it can also be called WiThrottle. Whether you think the word comes in the same route as the Wii games we played, or the same route as Wi-Fi. The Americans tend to generically call it WiThrottle, and a lot of people in the UK call it WiThrottle. I think either is perfectly acceptable. And we're going to connect this WiThrottle to our JMRI. In the Windows world, it's a different app, and it's called Engine Driver. And you go to the Google store or the Android store, I can't think exactly what it's called, and there you can pick it up and find a quick, there's a quick Safari window. That's the Engine Driver version of what we're going to be doing. This is for Androids and Windows systems. You're looking for this app, Engine Driver Throttle. And it does work almost exactly the same way as WiThrottle, which we're going to look at connecting to a Mac system. So although they seem different, they work very, very much the same way. Let's just kill that window. I said we're going to try and do it all from scratch. So what we're going to do is we're going to go and find the app. So this is where I need to grab my phone. I've got the phone in my hand. Okay, and I'm going to click on the, what I want to find is the App Store to try and download it. Because I had it up earlier in the day, App Store is here. So I'm going to click on it, and I want to search App Store, which means I need to type into that box there, and I'm going to type WiThrottle, and you see coming up, it's giving me the options of WiThrottle Lite and WiThrottle. I'll click the WiThrottle, I'll click there on my phone, and it, like all searches on these places, it gives you stuff which you do want and crap you don't want. So we'll just scroll my fingers down the phone. The one we really don't want is Train Driver, which is not what we're looking for at all. It does similar stuff, but I don't think it does anything like as well. So We have a choice of WiThrottle, which is a paid app, which I've got on my phone, but I'm not going to download that one now. I'm going to download for new WiThrottle Lite. And so that means I've got to type on the get. And now I have to tell my phone that, yes, I do want it. So it's going to give you a smiley face because it's doing Face ID on me. Oh, it does. Does it recognize me? You bugger. I don't want to do that. These things don't always do exactly what you want them to do. Now it did Face ID, good. And now the WiThrottle Lite will change from download it to giving me a open the app thing. So I'm going to click on there to open the app. And this is what we see when we first open WiThrottle Lite. It actually says WiThrottle Lite at the bottom to be pretty clear what it's talking about. This is completely free. It doesn't have all of the capabilities of the paid app, but it's pretty good. Now, before we get too carried away with wireless throttles, we need to understand that we need the things to talk to each other, so we need to be on the same wireless. So you can probably see on my screen, I hope this is my wireless, and that's telling me my computer is attached to a network called Pay for Your Own Wi-Fi. And if I go to my phone and I go to settings on my phone, it's saying that the wireless my phone is connected to is the same one, Pay for Your Own Wi-Fi. And that's an essential that these that the phone and the computer need to be connected to the same wireless. Otherwise, you're not going to get any connection. I know it sounds sort of blindingly obvious, but it's an easy thing, an easy step to miss out when you're setting this stuff up, is to forget to check your network connections, that they're both talking to the same wireless router, in which case it'll happen. When we take these things out with exhibition layouts, we take I take a very cheap router with me, and so we just connect everything to our own little cheap router. It doesn't need an internet connection once you've got it working. You only need an internet connection when you're downloading the thing. So we've got the correct connections. This will run on an iPad or an iPhone, and the other versions will run on Android notebooks and stuff. So those are our connections. So now we need to try and put them together. So I've got to ask JMRI on my computer to listen out for this coming. So what I've got to do is I'm setting up a throttle. So I'm going to go to this Panel Pro window, which is now live. And so I'm going to go to the menu over here to Tools, and I'm going to go to Throttles. And down here is Start WiThrottle Server. That's starting part of the JMRI application, which is listening for something to connect to. So I'm going to click that, and it's going to give me a window here, which is a WiThrottle window. It's giving me an IP address that it's listening on. It's also got some other controls, which we'll come to in a minute, allowing me to turn track on and off. But now I've got that, I should be able to start connecting these two things together. So I'm going to click on WiThrottle Lite down here. And the first screen I've got shows me a keypad and various other buttons. I don't know if this is connected to my layout or not. So where I'm going to look next is down here. There is a button called Settings. So I'm going to tap that. And it's, you can't click that, John. Okay, well, I don't want that one. Sorry, I wanted the one which says server configuration. I'm going to click on that one on my phone, and it says use automatic configuration on, and I do recommend you leave automatic on. It makes it makes it pretty easy to work. But if you chose not to, you can click on My JMR Railroad, which is here, and then on Configure here, and it'll give you a port window. And what you do, if it won't go automatically, is you put this address and that port number into that box. So we'll do it live and see if it works. We'll go 192 on my phone, not on that. Come on, boy. 192, and the next one is 168, 168, 0 22, and the port number is 12090. And then I'm going to press the connect button on my phone like that, and go back to, and let's have a look and see if we can find something. So I'm going to press this select button, the red one, and that gives me a choice of 3 ways of getting a loco. And let's just do it very simple. We'll write the number of this loco in here. So it's 7278, and the number has appeared here. And I need to press the set button up here, and 7278 up here has gone green. The L means it's a long DCC address, although I'm sure most of you know that. And if I come down here to where it says throttle, we have a throttle setup. We have forward and reverse at the top. So I'm going to tap forward. And this is a slider. You run your thumb up and down here. You don't actually have to be on the white bit. You can be anywhere on the slider, and it will take it up and down. You will notice very cunningly that there are no trains moving anywhere, which means we've lost a connection between there and there, which has happened before to me when setting this up. So what we'll do is just get rid of that quickly. And it is the law of technology when setting it up in public that it won't do what you want it to do. So I'll quit. As always, it's been running perfectly this afternoon, and then you get it, and well, I think it drops this one because it's just trying to do too much at once. So we'll restart our Panel Pro. We will get the WiThrottle server up. There it is. And we will reopen the panel that we want, which was A, and then we will slide that out the way. Check that we've got it. Yes, we have. So that's live, and you can see the thing moved. And then we'll go back to my phone and go and find WiThrottle Lite, which is there. And that still doesn't want to play. So I can't remember what I did to make it work last time.
John, what if you try it on your normal WiThrottle rather than the light version?
It doesn't matter either. Either will work. You can usually switch between them. I'm just rebooting the DCC system, and we will do it again. I said it wouldn't be a long session, didn't I? You've got that. Yeah, I just need to reboot that. Okay. You can see that slider moving, which is just on, I'll put it back to forward. I'll put my, so you can see I'm not cheating. I'll put that in front of the thing. Better go backwards because I don't want the loco running off the table. So there we can see it working from the WiThrottle light, just controlling that loco very simply backwards and forwards. And for many, many uses, that is probably all you need. You need to be able to put an address in, and I'm going to tap on the green button again, and I'm going to press release, which lets it go. And I'm going to go keypad, which is one way we got it in. If we tap the roster button, which is up here, that gives me a list of all the locos I've got set up in my Decoder Pro system, and allows me to pick one from it. When you've got quite a lot there, it's easier to either use recents, and there's only one going to be in recent because I've only used one, or to use the roster. We ought to look what other stuff is in here. So I'm going to go back to the settings button at the bottom, and that takes us back to here. If we look at WiThrottle info, this is useful if you've not used it before. It allows you to go to the WiThrottle homepage. That's that one, which, well, I'm just going to do it on my phone, obviously, which describes what is WiThrottle, how do I do it, can I download it, is it free? Back to info. And sorry, the other thing that was in there I forgot to show you is is there a manual? You can see here, if you click on that one, there is quite a nice selection of spiel about it. How does it work? What do I do with it? So it's quite a useful bit there, just on the back of the app. Coming back from there to our is the server configuration. I said at the beginning, leave automatic on, and I do that all the time, whatever layout I'm using this with. And it's not really relevant. Now, the throttle options. In the throttle options, sorry, that was done by clicking on the word throttle. And you can see at the top, there are 4 options of what the throttle will look like. That's the one we've got set up at the moment, which is that with the slider on the left and the buttons on the right. You can scroll the buttons just by pushing your fingers on the phone. You can see we're in a modern DCC system, since we go up to 60s with function numbers. I'm going back to settings. The other road one here sticks the slider on the right, unsurprisingly, like that. And these two are what are referred to as yard controllers. I'm going to go to that one, and then back to the throttle setting here. And here you can see, instead of having a long slider 0 to 126 with forward and reverse, there's a slider with a central off, which some people quite like. So if you grab the slider and push it up, you can see the loco going forward. I pull the slider back down, and the loco goes backwards. This loco has been set up with no momentum, no inertia, so it can't run off my track here. Some people like it like that, others prefer the other way. So you don't need to worry about tapping forward and reverse in this setting. And because it's really an American product, they tend to refer to these as that as a yard one, and the others as road. So you're using those on the main line. There's a slider for how sensitive is the throttle to your fingers. There is a choice of going either if I go to the one we were using, the road one, there's a choice of using either this forward reverse idle system at the top, like this, reverse idle forward. So if the loco is going forwards and we start it moving and we tap idle, it'll slow down and stop all on its own. I'm going to go back to those settings again. The other choice it gives us is this sort of pause and arrows left and arrows right, which I don't think is very helpful, because the direction your engine is going to go in depends on how it's been set up with the DCC system. Which way is forward, which way is reverse, and I think this tends to take you back to the days of driving the track where you think, I want to go that way, so I turn the knob that way, whereas this tends to reflect the DCC way of doing things a bit more. I want the engine to go forward or reverse. These buttons, that one's particularly useful. Mute sounds is worth having on, because these can, if you don't have that muted, they make horrible clicking noises as you run the sliders up and down. That's going back to there. So I think that's probably enough of light. They are really, really good if you're running a club layout or something and you've got guest operators, people who just show up wanting to run it. And if they've got a mobile phone, it's a free app. What it won't do is it won't allow you point and route control. It won't give you some of the more complicated settings of it won't give you the more complicated settings that the fully paid one will do. So we'll go and have a look at that next. The other thing I'll do at the moment is I'm going to change engines, because I get bored easily. No, it's a little diesel, and the reason I've gone to that one is it's got a sound decoder in it, and that is from a Judith Edge kit, quite nice one. So I'm going to close that. The other thing I've meant to point out to you is that if I pull that out, you can see that whenever I connected to it in the WiThrottle window, it shows that I have connected to it. So where I'm going to go next is I'm going to get rid of that. I'm going to press on there and I'm going to say remove app and delete app. So we've got rid of WiThrottle Lite. It's disappeared, and I'll flick along my phone till I find the full WiThrottle. And here is the full WiThrottle. And you can see as soon as I turn that on, it's appeared there as John Kneeshaw's iPhone. So I know what I'm connected to. I'm going to go on the settings here. You can see there's rather more choices down here. The WiThrottle info is going to give us the same stuff. The server configuration comes pretty much the same. The fast clock is not, I don't think it's terribly useful, but some people like it. We've now got access to routes and turnouts, and we can do them in different ways. And the throttle setups are going to be slightly different. Let's have a look at the throttle setups. The other thing it allows to do is track power on and off from your handheld. So if I click that and watch that green button there, that goes off, that goes red. So I've killed the whole layout with that button. That back on and the green's back on. I'm going to click the throttle now. Fascinating to note it's got a torch on it, actually. If you click on it, it turns your iPhone torch on. Isn't that lovely? So let's go to the throttle tab, which is here. I'm going to click that on my phone, and you can see we've got an additional one which has appeared, which is a dual, which is this one here, which I'm going to tap and then go to throttles down here, click. And you see this gives me the opportunity to run two locos at the same time. You just put the loco number in there and select back, and then you can, of course, that's not the loco I've got anymore, is it? I've got a different loco. I've got, I need to release that, and I'll go to the keypad, and I can see that that one is 2958, 2958. And we'll set that, and off we go. Now, the other thing you notice with this is I've got a lot of information in here, and I'll get rid of that setup if I don't particularly like it and come back to this one. No, that was the simple one. We've got information where we previously had stuff saying F1 and F2, which is all very useful as long as you can remember what F1 and F2 is. But if you can write on your buttons what they do, like toot toot, audible, Ian?
Yeah, loud and clear, John.
Thank you very much. Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. Then you know what's going to happen. So I know if that will turn the sound on. I'll know that will go toot. I know that will put it in coast mode. So how did we get those things there? I'll turn the sound off on this loco because it's deafening here, even though you guys can only just hear it. It's actually quite deafening here. This comes from the bit which James was talking about. It comes from Decoder Pro. And I will show you this because I think it's useful to have. If we go to our Panel Pro live window here and we look at roster, roster is where JMRI keeps information about our engines. And we're going to go to roster, and I'm going to open Decoder Pro, and it's going to give me that window, which is a whole load of locos. And I'm looking for, go down the DCC addresses till we get to 2958, which is the loco I've got. Click on that, and I'm going to click on a thing called Labels and Media, which opens this window. And this relates to this loco and this loco only, and it's the function labels for this loco. So if I were to say where I've got brake, if I wanted to add to that and write something, and then I press save to roster, then I need to just close the app and reopen the app. And when I look, it's changed the words in here to what I said there. So I can go down to these blank ones down here. And if I've got functions in 22 and whatever, I can write them in. Now, I think this is just the most enormous advantage for people running sound-equipped DCC engines. Is people say, oh, I try and get them all the same, but you can't get them all the same because they've all got different noises in. The door slams and the windscreen wipers and the buffing up and the noises from the drivers. But if you can write those characteristics of those functions actually into the system so that they appear on your hand controller, it is a huge advantage when you're driving a loco. I get rid of that. I'm going to go save to roster. I'll close that window while we're there. Close the app, reopen the app, and with a bit of luck, it now just says brake again. It doesn't say brake crash. Just useful bit of information. That's using a little bit of Decoder Pro. I will close that window and hope we keep everything else working. Yep, we have, which is good. I'm just going to make sure I have not left stuff out which I wanted to talk about. Right. So where we want to go next is the points and the routes. If you swipe, oh, difficult to do, right, that was a right swipe on my screen. That's a left swipe. Okay. We've got some options appear here, which is about point control and about route control. And this screen relates to that button there, and it just gives me numbers and the words T and the numbers and the letters T and C. So if I press on 3 appears in the box there. And if I press on either the T or the C, watch what happens here and here. And if I press the other one, the T, that was the C, thrown. So what I can do now with my hand controller is if I know the number which has been allocated to a point motor, I can just simply dial it up here and change it, and my train can be running while it's happening. And I can then sweep back and go back to my train and get it to make different noises. Let's sweep back to there. So look at the middle one here, this green symbol here. I'm going to click on that. And that gives me just a list of little diagrams of the 4 turnouts that we've got on the layout. The only one we've got to play with as a functional point motor is XT3. So I'm going to click on XT3. And you can see it changes there. And it changes on the mimic diagram up here. I'm going to click XT3 again. There, it changed there. And of course, if I press 1, it will change here. And if I press 2, it'll change over here. And 4 is there. I don't have real point motors to represent those, but I can change those. So that's another way of accessing, if you prefer it, the numbered points on your layout. If we look one more thing to the right, there's this thing with 3 buttons on it, and I'm going to click that on the iPhone. Clickety-click. ABI, there we are. And now what this is giving me is a list of routes that I have set up. That we need to go back to last November when we set up these 3 routes driven by these 3 sensors. So there's a route which is take everything around the top, take everything along the bottom, or go through the middle. And there's a reset one too. So I'm going to click bottom. And you can see the points have changed. So we go through here. Middle. Points change. So my route is through there. And that signal has come off. So that's the sensor, which is part of that. So that's telling you that route is all there. And I'm going to press the one labeled top here. That happens to activate point 3, and you saw it move. So there's simple route setting just from your handheld. And so you can sweep back to get to your loco again, sweep right to get to the routes, all the point settings, back to the loco. I think that's useful. I think it's handy, and I do use it. There's one more trick we have, which we need to look at, which is about this button down here, which is called Web Server. And it gives me what's called some frames. And I'm going to click on this one, which is labeled Demo A. And you will see it. I'm going to turn my phone on its side. And you can see that the mimic diagram, which we had previously just on the computer, is now on my phone. There it is on my phone. So if I want to, I can access it that way, and I can, and it all changes, and it all changes at the same time. That's useful, but probably less useful on a phone, but the concept of the web server gets a bit more useful elsewhere. So what I'm going to do next, I'll put that the right way up, and I will get rid of, I'm going to click back to throttle, and I'm going to go away from this simple one. I'm going to press quit button, which is always a dangerous thing to do in the middle of a demonstration. Wait for that to disappear, and I'm going to reopen a different one, and just to show it in a slightly more complicated setup. On this profile, I have the WiThrottle window set to come on in the configuration of Panel Pro. You can in JMRI set what stuff you want to happen as soon as you open the program. And there are two things I've got happening here. One is I have an updater telling me, am I using the most current? And the other one is it automatically opens a WiThrottle window, because I always use WiThrottle. And we'll click on that one. We'll open a panel. And this is not one I've done this evening. This is the layout upstairs in the barn. It's a bit more complicated, but the principles are exactly the same. It does have a 0.3 on it somewhere. Let's wait till it's settled down. Oh, there's often a long pause because it's got a lot of stuff to think about. There we go. So, and these are accessed through these sensors.
And 3 just moved then as well, John.
Yep. Because this is a route, and the F4 route will change the point so trains go through it. If I can see, yeah, it's changed 7 as well. If I change 5, that'll change 3 and 6 and give you a straight through route. But that's just within JMRI. That's not about wireless stuff. So let's get back to wireless stuff. Reopen this and hope it plays. We'll set up the loco, so we've got a loco on the thing. That's always a good test. It's a very useful DCC sound test. Is my system working? Just blow a horn and you know it's working. So now I'm going to go back to this one down here, the web server one. We'll pop it on its side. Oh, sorry. First of all, I know what I didn't do. Sorry, need to close it, then open it. And now we've got a slightly bigger, more complicated one, and we can access all of that from the phone. Now, the phone isn't big enough to really access all of that, but we can right sweep here. We can access the routes I've got set up from this. A useful one is a route called Bay Entry. You see Bay Entry there. This is the up line. Has to cross the down line and go into the Bay platform. So if I click Bay Entry on here, you probably can't see that very well, but I'm going to click that on there. And that set that road, and I can pull that signal. Okay, and I can clear that by doing somewhere I should have one called Clear Bay Entry.
You've just scrolled past it, John.
I'm sure I did. Up or down now?
You need to go up. Well, it's at the top, just below Bay Entry.
Clear Bay Entry. There it is. And that's gone back to a normal run. Okay. Now that's pretty useful. But again, it's slightly chunky on a phone. The paid application, I'll come to bigger devices in a second. The paid application is £9.95, which is not a cheap app, but it's certainly a fully functional app. But if you want a wireless throttle from Lens, a wireless throttle from Lens costs £300. A wireless throttle from Digitrax, £240. Roco is about the cheapest wireless throttle, £125. WiThrottle, £9.95, and it will go on a phone. Of course, it's yours, not the phone's. So if you buy WiThrottle, you can run it on as many phones as you own, or phones and iPads, or whatever other tablets you own. So it does become quite reasonable. Well, I think it's very reasonable compared to the cost of a wireless lens one. Now, I've got most of the way there, and at risk of breaking things, I have an old iPad. I use it as a reader these days, and let's see if I can persuade my QuickTime setup to run the iPad. Obviously, I've been good to it today. Here is my iPad. It used to be Jackie's iPad. I sort of inherited it. And on the iPad, I can see where WiThrottle is. It's there. But before I do that, I'm bored with this big layout. Let's get rid of that, and we'll come to something a bit smaller. We'll get rid of that again. The reason I have to keep quitting and restarting Panel Pro is because I'm using different profiles, because I'm a bit complicated about the way I use it. And we're going to use one called Bowater. Now, some of you may remember Bowater. Bowater is a narrow gauge railway layout which belongs to our Model Railway Club. It was in the Last But One Gazette, and we drive Bowater with mobile phones using this sort of system. It's automatically opened a WiThrottle window. So what I need to do is go to the panels, and I'm going to load the panels. Here it is. This is the Bowater panel. It's very simple. This one's been set up so that the only thing you can click is sensors. If you try and click the points, nothing will happen. And so you click your route by clicking the sensors and say, I want to go through there. You can click either sensor, actually. If you click a red one, it'll go green. You click a green one, it'll go red, and the opposite effect will happen, and the point will change. So that's the way we work it. And what we wanted to do was we wanted to have an operator at each end of this system, and we wanted to have panels which were self-repeating. So I'm going to open this one on here, and I'll go to the web server one down here, and there is the picture of the layout. And if I put this on its side, is it going to help? Yeah. Oops, sorry, it's me clicking the wrong things. Okay, I'll put that in front of the phone so you can see it's real. And that's the iPad, which is a nice size to hold and use. And you can see it working. You can see that changed. If I take this out of the way and click it, you'll be able to see 0.3 move live there. And with one of those devices at each end of a layout, you can have two people can have control. Both people get the same information at the same time, and the computer in the middle shows you what's happening, and all of these devices will replicate what's happening on the panel, and we think that's really, really useful. There's one other trick which I will show you before I shut up that the iPad does. I'm going to click on the address button here, and I'm going to go to the settings button down here on the iPad. And the iPad being a bigger device thinks you can be clever, and as well as giving you road, yard, and dual, it gives you twins. And this one, I'm going to click on this one, twin dual. Honest I am, and then go to throttle, and I can click on that at the same time. So if you're really, 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 really clever, and That's what it looks like on the iPhone. You can drive 4 trains at once. You can get a train on a loco in each of those, and you can control all the points on your layout all at the same time from that single big iPad screen. And if you can do that, you're braver than I am. Um, the apps update themselves automatically whenever you connect, if there are updates to have. And I think that's enough from me for this evening. So I shall stop there and take any questions which anybody's got. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Chris Walsh said about just under a quarter of an hour ago, he believed the engine driver also shows track plan.
Yeah, and so does, and I think he probably said that before I went into
yes,
the web server part and showed the track plans on this app. Yeah.
Just for microseconds before you actually mentioned it, John. So I also posted a question. It says, "Oh, and so does the iPhone."
Yeah, just as you did it. Yeah. Mark Kitchen says this is a very good tool. Don Wilsmer said, John, when selecting a loco, it can be useful to give it a toot, especially if you have, say, 2 panniers or 2 jinties, and you can check you have selected the right one.
Yep. Agree.
Dr. Davis said price $9.99 indefinite. I don't know, Dave, if you're asking if that's a one-off payment of $9.99 or if it's a annual subscription.
Precisely, yes. Was it indefinite? You pay it once, or you have to recurring payment?
You're quite right, Dave. You pay once and it's yours forever. I've had it for 10 years now, I think, and it's
excellent.
I think it's incredibly good value. Although people say, "Oh, that's an expensive app," but it moves from device to device with you as you get your new phone. Of course, your old iPhone will still work running, WiThrottle, just as your old Android phone will still work running Engine Driver.
Peter Jackson has said the Android Engine Driver app is free and includes routes and turnouts control.
Does it?
Apparently so. I haven't checked it myself yet, but I must do that.
I believe him. I don't know. If it is, well done, Android.
Yeah. Back to Dr. Dave. Practically, what happens at an exhibition when many layouts are using Wi-Fi throttles?
It doesn't seem to be an issue. And we've been to a lot of big shows now with several layouts, because I use it on our little Bankfield Road. We used to use it on the late lamented Helmsthwaite and Chapel Lane. We use it on the new layout, Bowwaters, and it hasn't been a problem. And I think that's because we take our own router. I think if you were dependent on the router in the hall, then you may have a problem. But I take our own router and I connect this computer to the router, and I connect my phone or the iPad to the router. The router is not connected to the internet, so you're independent.
Yeah.
And I think that's why we don't get problems. I have heard people say, "Oh, we had a problem with it in Alexandra Palace or somewhere." And I think that maybe, I'm not sure, it may be because people are using the wireless systems in the venue that they're attending.
Okay, thank you.
From Mark Griffiths, if you have multiple operators, could you have one person doing points and signals and another operating the trains?
Exactly so, Mark. Any way you want. Yeah, that works. You'd have to talk to each other then, wouldn't you? And be nice and stuff. Almost you'd need telephones from place to place, a bit like another layout I know.
Yes.
But yeah, that would work. What we tend to have for Bowwater is a device at the end which is fixed, which you tap on, and your phone in your hand, which is the throttle. But there are as many ways of working it as there are people. I think it's the whole setup, whether it's WiThrottle or whether it's Engine Driver, just gives you so much extra functionality to a DCC system.
Alex Dent, can JMRI Panel Pro be used on any gauge like 00?
Yep, it certainly can. We've even N-gauge, DCC doesn't care what the gauge is. The wireless doesn't know what the gauge is. It's just sending messages to a decoder. So it's appropriate to anything you fit decoders into.
Yeah, and John Walker, yes, Engine Driver is free. I use it on an Amazon Fire, which is good to know, John, because I was just thinking I've got one upstairs and I was going to put Engine Driver on and try it.
Yeah, we'll try it with yours on in Bowater, Ian.
Yeah, we can. Yeah, and with Collingwood going forward.
Yeah.
Peter Jackson again, at exhibitions, problems can arise if there are several routers using the same channel. If
Yeah.
this does arise, you can simply change the channel your router is using.
Yeah. Yep. Thank you for that.
He says, I have an AOP.
Never mind.
And I think that would be an app.
Oh, right, yes, an app.
Ah.
Yeah, it probably is. Yeah. Quite right, Jackie. Thank you. Back to Don Wilsmer again. My DCC EX system has built-in Wi-Fi, so you can use WiThrottle direct to it.
Yep.
And Peter Warren, well, I nearly said Judith then. Oh, that just did. We will be using WiThrottle Lite and DCC EX on West Brompton at Kempton Park on Saturday with L plates on. Control from either end of the layout is for the future. And then
I give you a free piece of advice. If you're taking your own router, make sure you password protect it and make sure your operators know the password. I mention this because in the early days of this system, there were one or two people, mainly John Emerson, who, when he used to run Gifford Street at exhibitions with DCC and wireless, who had an open router. And I used to stand next to it sometimes with my phone and blow whistles and hooters and gently move locos in the yard, which was very, very naughty thing to do. But if you do,
like you do with Bowaters when we're testing.
I'm afraid I do. So password protect your routers.
Peter Jackson again. I have an app which shows the channels in use, so that's handy as well, isn't it? So you can see the channels you're using. And Mark Hitchens, are there any?
Can I come back, Ian? Sorry,
Karen, John.
App which shows channels in use.
Yes.
Can Peter email you or the system with what that app is, or give us?
Or we can write it in the chat box.
Or you can write it in the chat box so you can
see
it and I can get it later.
Yeah, that'd be handy. If you could do that, Peter, that'd be great. Mark Hitchens, are there any anticipated upgrades to the app?
I think it's continuously upgraded. It's certainly changed over the years. They don't advertise when there are upgrades and things happening to it. And because it has to link pretty much to JMRI. And JMRI updates very, very frequently, as some of you will know. It will tend to do a proper release every 9 months, but every month there will be a test release, and I always run on the test releases. And WiThrottle and Engine Driver have to follow what's happening in JMRI. So I guess there is continuous update, but they don't announce it.
Right. Are there any other questions from anybody?
To save me typing it all in.
Yeah.
There's actually two parts to WiThrottle. One is it's a protocol that handles the Wi-Fi stuff. The other bit is the bit you see on the screen with the buttons and everything. Because Engine Driver actually uses the WiThrottle protocol.
It does.
To send it through. And so you might get confused at some time that if somebody's talking about the protocol, anybody could use that, but the nice bit on the screen you've got to pay for.
Yeah, the JMRI protocols which underlie WiThrottle and Engine Driver are done by a chap called Steve Todd.
Yeah,
and Steve Todd is also the man who produces a nice image for putting JMRI onto Raspberry Pis, because we use Raspberry Pis on Bowater as the computers rather than big ones. But yeah, thank you, Don. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, it's just that sometimes you could get confused with it.
Yeah.
It's well, that was very nicely done, John. Thank you.
Thank you, Don.
Peter's just come back with the app there. I was just going to say, did Peter want to tell us about the app that he's got? But he's just posted it. It's called Wi-Fi Analyzer. This is
Okay, I will pick that up later and have a look at it. Thank you.
yeah. And he's sure there's an iPhone version.
Oh, bound to be.
Right, if there's no more questions, I shall do a quick, as usual, PowerPoint to finish the evening, just to show what's coming up in the future. Where is it? Hope you can all see this. So the diary of events for an evening with for the rest of 2025. Next month, we will be joining Nick Dunhill on his continuation of the charity loco build that he's doing, and we'll be concentrating on the backplates, all the fittings that go with the backplate on the firebox of a locomotive. July, we've got Chris Warner, who is going to concentrate on modelling for modern image, mainly looking at hopefully items for a modern image layout that you would use trackside, station-wide, engine shed, multi-power depot, that kind of stuff. In August, John Jones will be covering Templot plug track and COT, which is chair on timber track. This is the development of Templot for basically doing filament printing of parts to sleepers and chairs, or sleepers combined with chairs, which is going to be Templot 5 when that becomes fully released, and that really is quite exciting. Terry Downs, who was at RailX at the weekend, had an awful lot of interest with both those parts of Templot, especially from 7mm scale modelers. So it's going to be quite interesting, that session. I think John is also at Kempton Park at the weekend as well on Saturday with us.
Terry Dunn coming with him now as well, Ian.
Oh, brilliant. That's good. That's great.
Both Terry and John will be there.
Yeah, September, we've got Paul Scott, who's going to take us through his very, very nice College Junction layout, which is in his loft. October, we see a return of Tony Andrews, who's going to take us through Carriage Painting Part 2, where he's going to look at mainly Pullmans, because obviously they have much more intricate and complicated livery. And then we round the year off for 2025 with Nigel Payne, who's going to do an evening with a Northeastern Railways rail-mounted gun. So that should prove quite interesting. For any non-members who may be watching, please consider joining the guild. Annual membership is £30 for UK, currently £35 rest of the world, and also now the new digital membership at £25 per annum, and that covers international as well, doesn't it, Jackie?
Yes, it does.
Yeah. So, and also you don't have to sign up right away. You can take advantage of a 1 month free trial. If you then decide to join after the 1 month, your membership starts on the date you join and lasts for 12 months.
Just taking up the list of forthcoming events, can we at some stage talk John into extending what he was talking about last time into routing and automation and things like that?
Oh, I'm sure I might be able to twist his hand a little bit.
That would be great. Thank you. I'm
Okay.
really struggling with that, so I shall look forward to that, John. With
Funnily, I was doing some for somebody else this afternoon.
Yeah, I wonder who that might have been. Anyway, thank you, John. Thanks for your assistance.
You're welcome.
The guild website. If you wish to join the guild, if you're not already a member, click on the About Us top left, where the big red arrow is pointing to. They will open a drop-down box, and you click on Join Online, and that takes you to another page, which gives you a membership application form where you can select which membership you wish for the year that you would like to join us for, and hopefully continue to join. And obviously there's 1 month free trial of online benefits of membership there at the bottom as well that you can select. Social media, we have, of course, I asked Alex Dent what these were, and he told me, and I've forgotten again. Facebook, Instagram, and
That's our own forum.
Our own forum. Thank you, John. Our own forum. I kept thinking it was X because we had X, Twitter there somewhere, and of course it's now been replaced with that. And then, of course, where the big arrow is pointing, our YouTube channel, where you find all the videos and all the recordings of previous evening withs. That takes you to our homepage, and at the top here in the search, if you type an evening with, it will bring up a list of all the evening with sessions. 579 videos currently. There's actually more than that now. There's about 590 active videos that you can watch on the channel, and we're nearly heading to 500,000 views for the channel, which is quite good for us, really. And obviously this coming Saturday, 31st of May, summer show at Kempton Park, £12 members, general admission £17, children under 16 £1, open 09:30 to 1600. And for the rest of the year, we've got Guildex the Saturday 6th and Sunday the 7th of September, Bingley Hall, Stafford Showground, Stafford. And then the winter show, Saturday 6th of December, Robin Park Leisure Centre in Wigan. Stop
Ian, can I just remind people to also look out for the new skills workshops that are being advertised for this year? We didn't have time to get them into the last Guild news, but if you go to the homepage and click on events and scroll down the menu, you'll find that there's a weathering workshop in the southwest in June. There is a soldering workshop in Suffolk in June. There's another weathering workshop in August in Cambridgeshire, and there'll be 2 or 3 more that are being added, the laser cut buildings and another soldering one. So do keep your eye on that drop down menu until the end of the next Guild news, and we'll get those all advertised for everybody.
Thank you, Jackie. And in case anybody hasn't seen it in the message in the chat box, Peter Jackson has posted the app which shows Wi-Fi channels in use, is Wi-Fi Analyzer. This is an Android app, but I'm sure there are iPhone versions. And thank you, Cor. Thank you for a nice evening. Greetings to everyone. Cor de Jong, the Netherlands.
Can I just say that we got an upcoming evening with to look at John Jones is doing it, to look at Templot on that, and I've just been playing about with it, and it's quite amazing that you can produce a whole plan for a layout, 3D print all the track bits that clip together so that you've got the whole layout held properly. It's quite amazing what you can do.
Yeah, that's and it's still being developed, Don. There are still aspects of the COT version of Templot, which the guys, because it's going open source, the guys are still developing.
Well, that's what I used to do the first bit to test. But no, but I was just saying, I would recommend to anybody attend that evening with.
Yeah, thank you. And another message from Mark. Thank you, John and GOG team, for the evening with session. And John Walker, John Jones is also at Kempton Park. Yes, I did mention that, John. And then Jackie said Terry Jones is joining him as well. Yeah. Well, all it takes for me to do now is thank John for this evening's session. I know you did do a lot of work in advance and a bit of prep for this session. I think it went really well. It was very enlightening. There were some aspects of it that I picked up from you this evening, which should be quite interesting going forward. And I'd just like to wish everybody a good night, and we'll see you again soon.
See you on Saturday.
Thank you very much indeed for a great evening.
Cheers.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Very much. Bye now. Bye-bye.